What if you couldn't describe the color of the sky? What if you didn't have a word for lake or bird? Language forms the basis of all culture. When a language disappears, so does the folklore, myths, and tradition. You begin to lose a sense of place, purpose, and identity when your language no longer exists. By the turn of the century, 50 to 90% of all world languages are predicted to disappear. That is the problem facing the Paiute language, also known as the Numu.
Ne dawa kutsmana mina ni'a. Ne Numu, Newe, Hopi no Namayiwa'a. I am a traditional Numu singer. I am also a contemporary native performer who uses my language through song. I am also a classically trained vocal performer. I participate in pageants dance groups, which are traditional dances of the Numu practiced since time immemorial. You can also find me in the powwow circle dancing women's buckskin traditional and fancy dance. I graduated in 2019 from the University of Nevada, Reno with a bachelor's degree in music with a focus on vocal performance and minor in biology. Which brings me to UC Davis. I am currently a second-year PhD student in the Native American Studies department. I'm working towards getting my PhD in Native American Studies with a designated emphasis in performance. My research focuses on language revitalization of Numu Yaruwan, the Paiute language, as well as incorporating my music degree with composition of new and contemporary Numu song and dance, as well as looking at performance, as well as rewriting some of the history of the Numu.
So for me, I think preserving our language is very important because for us as Native people, our language is what binds our culture, our songs, our stories, our dances all together. And without our language, we lose all those aspects. And so it's incredibly important that we preserve our language, especially now. Our language is considered critically endangered, and we have very few fluent speakers left who are elders. And so it's really important that we pass on our language for future generations. Before I had children, I always envisioned myself speaking to my son or my daughter in our language. And last night, he didn't even think twice before he said Pisha Tagano. He said good night, and then he said I love you in Paiute. And so knowing that he's just doing it without thinking about it makes me feel really good that I'm kind of doing my part in passing on what I've learned from elders and passing that on to my child as well. But I hope that he grows up and knows that that's important and carries that on with him as well, and to teach his children. You can't just teach words and verbs and nouns and pronouns. You really get a sense of our culture and our spirituality as a people through our language, because so much of it is, they're tied together, connectedness. So you can't, like I said, you can't have our songs without our language. You can't have the dances without the songs. So they're all very much intertwined with each other. I saw other universities in the United States and in other countries that were able to add their indigenous languages, and so I thought, I'm not going to give up until we make this happen.
The music, songs, and language of the northern Paiute people are a driving force in the life of Christina Thomas.
Hi, ne dawa kutsmana mina ni'a, ne kuiwi tikara mina une Davis waita.
And she's doing everything in her power to make sure the ancient culture she was born into is honored and preserved.
I'm recording songs that have not, been recorded in like a studio, because all of our songs have been handed down from generations or from elders to people.
passing by.